gentle English learning
for real-world confidence.
Hey there, English crafters. Welcome to Craft Your English. I'm Liam.
And this is Chloe.
And we're here to help you build, shape, and perfect your English skills one conversation at a time. Let's craft something amazing together. Welcome back to another episode of Craft Your English. I'm Liam, and whether you're joining us for the first time or you're a regular in our workshop, we're so glad you're here.
And I'm Chloe. Liam, can I ask you something a bit personal?
Go for it.
Have you ever been in a situation where you got some recognition, maybe a compliment on your work, or you achieved something you'd been working toward, and instead of feeling proud, this little voice in your head whispered, "They're going to figure out I don't actually know what I'm doing."
Oh, absolutely. It's like you're waiting for someone to tap you on the shoulder and say, "Excuse me, there's been a mistake. You don't belong here."
Yes, that exact feeling, and it's so common, especially when you're learning something new or pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. Today, we're talking about imposter syndrome, that sneaky voice that tells you you're not good enough, even when all the evidence says otherwise.
And here's the thing about imposter syndrome for English learners specifically. You're literally crafting a new version of yourself in another language. You're building something from scratch, and it's easy to feel like the foundation isn't solid yet, even when it absolutely is.
Exactly. So today, we're going to break down what imposter syndrome really is, why it shows up so often when you're learning English, and most importantly, we're going to give you some practical tools to craft a stronger, more confident version of yourself.
Because the message we want you to leave with today is simple. You belong here. You've earned your place at the table or in the meeting or in the conversation. Let's dig in.
So let's start by defining it clearly. Imposter syndrome is this persistent feeling that you're a fraud, that you don't deserve your success, and that any moment now, someone's going to discover you're not as capable or talented as they think you are.
And here's what's fascinating about it. Imposter syndrome often affects high-achieving people the most. It's not that you lack skills or qualifications. In fact, it's usually the opposite. You've worked hard, you've achieved things, but you attribute your success to luck or timing rather than your own abilities.
Ooh, I love that you brought that up because it's so counterintuitive, right? You think the more successful someone is, the more confident they'd feel. But actually, the higher you climb, the louder that voice can get. Here's a quick story. I once interviewed for a teaching position, a job I was totally qualified for. And the entire time, I kept thinking, what if they ask me something I don't know? What if they realize I'm not as experienced as they think I am?
And did they realize you were a fraud?
No, I got the job. I was great at it. But that feeling, it stuck around for months. I kept waiting for them to figure out I didn't belong.
That's textbook imposter syndrome. And let's connect this directly to our English crafters listening right now. When you're learning English, you're in this unique position where you're constantly aware of what you don't know. You hear a native speaker and think, "I'll never sound like that." You make a small grammar mistake in a meeting and convince yourself everyone thinks you're incompetent.
Yes, and there's this comparison trap. You're comparing your chapter 3 to someone else's chapter 20. A native speaker has been crafting their English their entire life, and you're comparing your work in progress to their finished product.
Let's break it down nice and simple. There are a few common thoughts that signal imposter syndrome is at work.
First, I just got lucky. You discount your hard work and attribute success to external factors.
Second, anyone could do this. You minimize your unique skills and perspective.
Third, if I can do it, it must not be that hard. You downgrade the difficulty of your achievements.
And fourth, they're going to find out I don't know what I'm doing. You live in fear of being exposed as a fraud.
Now, here's what I want you to understand, English crafters. These thoughts aren't facts. They're stories your brain is telling you, and like any story, you can rewrite it. you can craft a new narrative.
And that's exactly what we're going to help you do. But first, we're going to step into our phrase builder to craft a really useful expression that's all about giving yourself the recognition you deserve. Today's phrase is one I think we all need to hear more often. Give yourself some credit.
Oh, I love this one. Give yourself some credit means to acknowledge and appreciate your own accomplishments and abilities. It's about recognizing the value of your hard work instead of brushing it off or attributing it to luck.
I like to think the word credit here comes from the idea of giving someone recognition or praise, kind of like crediting someone in a film for their work. When you give yourself credit, you're acknowledging that you deserve recognition for what you've done.
Let me give you 2 examples. Example 1. You managed that entire project in English, even though it was stressful. Give yourself some credit. Example 2. Stop focusing on that one mistake. Give yourself some credit for all the things you got right today.
It's a phrase you can use with friends when they're being too hard on themselves, but more importantly, it's something you can say to yourself. It's giving yourself permission to be proud.
And that connects perfectly to imposter syndrome because one of the biggest challenges is learning to internalize your successes instead of dismissing them. When you give yourself credit, you're actively fighting that imposter voice.
So back to our workshop, we've identified what imposter syndrome is, we've seen how it shows up for English learners, and now we need to craft some solutions. Let's talk about practical strategies.
Yes, because knowing about imposter syndrome is one thing, but actually managing it day to day, that takes some intentional work.
Strategy number 1, acknowledge the feeling without judgment. When that voice pops up saying, "You're a fraud," don't try to suppress it or pretend it's not there. Just notice it. You might even say to yourself, there's imposter syndrome again. Hello, old friend.
I do this. Naming it actually takes away some of its power. It's like once you realize it's just a pattern your brain falls into, it doesn't feel as scary or true.
Exactly. Strategy number 2, focus on facts, not feelings. Feelings are real, but they're not always accurate. This is where I'm going to suggest something practical. Keep what I call an evidence log or a success file.
Ooh, I love that. Tell us more.
Every time you do something well in English, and it doesn't have to be huge, write it down. I understood a complex email today. I successfully explained my idea in the meeting. I had a phone conversation without needing to ask them to repeat themselves. When imposter syndrome strikes, you open that file and read the facts.
That's such a tangible tool. You're literally crafting a record of your competence. And here's a quick story. I had a student once who kept a wins jar every time she had a small victory with her English, even something like ordering coffee confidently. She'd write it on a slip of paper and put it in the jar. When she felt discouraged, she'd pull out a few slips and read them.
I love that. It's physical proof that you're not faking it. Strategy number 3, stop the comparison game. Your journey is not anyone else's journey. You're crafting your own unique version of English fluency, and it's going to look different from everyone else's.
This is so important. When you compare your English to a native speaker's, you're comparing your chapter 5 to their chapter 50. It's not a fair comparison, and it's definitely not useful.
Instead, compare yourself to yourself. Are you better than you were 6 months ago? A year ago? That's the comparison that actually matters.
And our 4th strategy, practice positive self-talk and affirmations. Now, I know some people roll their eyes at affirmations, but there's real psychological research behind this.
The way you talk to yourself shapes how you see yourself. Let's break it down nice and simple. An affirmation is a short, positive statement that you repeat to build confidence. Instead of, "My English is terrible," you practice thinking, "I am a capable English learner and I'm improving every day."
Here are a few affirmations you can try. My voice deserves to be heard. My progress is real and valuable. I belong in this conversation. My accent is part of my unique story.
And here's a bonus tip. Say them in English. It's actually great practice and it reinforces the message at the same time.
Now, English crafters, I want you to think about this. What would change if you truly believed you belonged? If you walked into that meeting or that conversation without that little voice questioning whether you deserve to be there, what would you say? What would you try?
That's the workspace we're trying to create for you. A mental space where you feel confident enough to take risks, make mistakes, and keep building your skills without that constant self-doubt.
Because every time you speak English, you're not pretending, you're not faking it, you're actively doing it. And that makes you a real English speaker, imperfections and all. All right, time to step into our word workshop. We've used some really useful vocabulary today, so let's make sure you've got these words in your toolbox.
First up, the central word from our topic, fraud. A fraud is a person who pretends to be something they're not in order to deceive others. In the context of imposter syndrome, it's the false belief that you're fooling people about your abilities. Example 1. Even though she had a PhD, she constantly worried people would discover she was a fraud. Example 2. The feeling of being a fraud is common when you start a new job, even if you're perfectly qualified.
Next, a word that captures how imposter syndrome makes us feel: inadequate. Not good enough or not confident enough, lacking the quality or quantity needed. Example 1. Comparing yourself to others can make you feel inadequate, even when you're doing well. Example 2. She felt inadequate during the presentation, but her colleagues thought she did a brilliant job.
Third, an important verb for dealing with emotions, to acknowledge. To acknowledge, to accept, admit, or recognize the existence or truth of something. Example 1. It's important to acknowledge your feelings of self-doubt rather than trying to ignore them. Example 2. Her manager acknowledged her hard work with a public thank you at the meeting.
Fourth, a word from our solutions toolkit: affirmation. Affirmation is a positive statement that you repeat to yourself, used to encourage confidence and reinforce beliefs about yourself. Example 1. I am capable and competent is a powerful affirmation for fighting imposter syndrome. Example 2. He starts each day with affirmations to build his confidence before work.
And finally, a verb that describes what we often do with our achievements, to downplay. To downplay is to make something seem less important, serious, or impressive than it really is. Example 1. She tends to downplay her accomplishments, saying things like, "It was nothing," when people praise her work. Example 2. Don't downplay your progress. Learning a language is genuinely difficult, and you should be proud of how far you've come.
So, English crafters, here's what we want you to take away from today's workshop. Imposter syndrome is a feeling, not a fact. It's your brain trying to protect you from disappointment, but it's also holding you back from recognizing how far you've come.
You are not a fraud. You've earned your place at the table. Every conversation you have in English, every email you write, every meeting you contribute to, that's you actively being an English speaker, not pretending to be one.
And remember to give yourself some credit. Keep that evidence log, practice those affirmations, and stop comparing your behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel.
Now, we'd love to hear from you. Have you experienced imposter syndrome with your English learning? What helps you feel more confident? Drop a comment below and let us know. We read every single one, and your story might help another English crafter who's feeling exactly the same way.
And if today's episode resonated with you, give it a like, hit that subscribe button, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. We've got so many more tools and strategies to help you craft the English skills you deserve.
Thanks for spending time in our workshop today. Keep building, keep crafting, and remember,
You belong here.
That's your dose of English wisdom. Don't overdose.
We'll see you next time.